I drove his son home every day for a month, and when he asked why, I said, because someone should. Claire Bennett noticed the boy the same way most people eventually notice small, quiet patterns in their daily routine, slowly and then all at once. Every afternoon, driving home from her job as a nurse at the local hospital, she passed the elementary school around the same time buses were finishing their routes. And every afternoon, for nearly 2 weeks, she noticed the same small boy standing alone at the bus stop near her street, long after the other children had already been picked up by parents or walked home with friends. He couldn't have been more than 8 years old, standing quietly by himself, backpack slung over one shoulder, watching the road with the patient, resigned expression of a child who had learned, somewhere along the way, not to expect anyone to come quickly. On the 15th day, Claire finally pulled her car over. "Hi there," she said gently, rolling down her window. "I've noticed you standing here a lot lately. Is everything all right? Is someone coming to get you?" The boy studied her carefully, the way children do when deciding whether an adult can be trusted. "My dad works late sometimes," he said finally. "He's usually not too late. I just wait." "How long do you usually wait?" Claire asked. "Sometimes 20 minutes, sometimes an hour," the boy admitted, a little embarrassed. "It's okay, I'm used to it." Claire felt something tighten in her chest, the particular ache of a caregiver's instinct recognizing a child who had learned to minimize his own needs too early. "What's your name?" she asked. "Ethan," the boy said. "I'm Claire," she said. "Would you like to sit in my car while you wait? I have some snacks in here, and we can wait together until your dad arrives." "Only if that feels okay to you, of course." Ethan considered the offer carefully before nodding, climbing cautiously into the passenger seat while keeping his backpack on his lap, the posture of a child not entirely ready to fully relax around a stranger, however kind. Claire kept the conversation light and easy, asking him about his day at school, his favorite subjects, careful not to push too hard or ask too many personal questions that might make him uncomfortable. 25 minutes later, a tired-looking man in a work uniform came jogging up the street, visible relief and worry crossing his face when he spotted Ethan sitting in an unfamiliar car. "Ethan!" he called, quickening his pace. "It's okay, Dad," Ethan said, climbing quickly out of Claire's car. "This is Claire. She let me wait in her car instead of standing outside." The man, whose name Claire soon learned was Marcus, approached with a complicated mixture of gratitude and embarrassment, written across his tired face. "I'm so sorry," he said, looking between Claire and his son. "I got held up at work, and my usual arrangement fell through today. Thank you for looking after him. I hope he wasn't any trouble." "Not at all," Claire said warmly. "He's a wonderful kid. I noticed him waiting alone a lot these past couple of weeks, actually. I just wanted to make sure he was safe." Marcus's face flushed slightly, clearly uncomfortable with the implication, however gently offered. "It's been a difficult stretch," he admitted. "I'm a single dad. Work's been demanding lately, and my usual after-school arrangement recently fell apart. I'm working on finding something more reliable." Claire, sensing the genuine difficulty behind Marcus's careful explanation, made a decision that surprised even herself. "I finish my shifts around this time most days," she said. "I drive right past this bus stop on my way home anyway. I'd be happy to give Ethan a ride, until you're able to sort out something more permanent. Only if that would be helpful, and only if you're comfortable with it, of course." Marcus studied her for a long moment, clearly weighing the offer against the natural caution any parent should have about a stranger offering to drive their child. "That's an incredibly generous offer," he said carefully. "I don't want to impose on you, though. You don't even know us." "It's really no trouble," Claire said honestly. "I have some flexibility in my schedule, and it would just be a short detour on my way home. I promise, it's not an imposition at all." Marcus hesitated for another long moment before finally nodding. "If you're truly sure, I would really appreciate that, just until I can get something more stable arranged. I'll pay you for your time and gas, of course." "That's not necessary," Claire said firmly. "I'm happy to help, really." Claire began picking Ethan up from the bus stop each afternoon, driving him the short distance to his home, where he would let himself in with a key he wore on a lanyard around his neck, waiting comfortably until Marcus arrived home from work an hour or so later. The daily drives, though brief, gave Claire the chance to get to know Ethan gradually. His love of dinosaurs, his talent for drawing, his quiet, thoughtful nature that reminded her, in some ways, of herself at that same age. "Do you like being a nurse?" Ethan asked her one afternoon during their short drive. "I love it," Claire said honestly. "I like helping people feel better when they're scared or hurting. It feels important." "I want to be a paleontologist when I grow up," Ethan said seriously. "That's someone who studies dinosaur bones. I think that's important too, even though it's not really about helping people who are sick. I think understanding the world in any way is important," Claire said warmly. "I think you'd make a wonderful paleontologist." By the end of the first week, Ethan had grown noticeably more relaxed and chatty during their short rides together, clearly appreciating the steady, predictable presence Claire had unexpectedly brought into his after-school routine. Marcus, for his part, remained deeply grateful for Claire's help, though he made a point, each time he saw her, of trying to find some way to properly thank her, offering to pay for gas, offering meals, generally uncomfortable with the idea of accepting such consistent kindness without finding some way to reciprocate. "You really don't need to keep offering things," Claire told him one evening, when he arrived home to find her and Ethan finishing a drawing of a Tyrannosaurus Rex together at the kitchen table. "I promise. I'm happy to help. It's not a burden." "I know you keep saying that," Marcus said, running a tired hand through his hair. It's hard for me accepting help this easily, without some way of evening things out. I've been managing everything on my own for the past 3 years, since Ethan's mother passed away. I'm not used to people simply offering to help without expecting something in return." Claire felt a wave of sympathy at this small, vulnerable admission. "I'm sorry," she said gently. "That sounds incredibly difficult, managing everything alone for so long." "It's been hard," Marcus admitted, "but we've managed. Ethan's a resilient kid. I just wish I could give him more of my time and attention than my work schedule currently allows." Over the following days, as Claire continued her daily routine of picking Ethan up, she gradually learned more about Marcus's story, pieced together from small, careful conversations during the brief moments they shared at pickup and drop-off. Marcus worked as a construction site manager, a demanding job that often required long, unpredictable hours, especially during the busy summer building season currently underway. His wife, Ethan's mother, had died suddenly 3 years earlier from a rare heart condition, leaving Marcus, then only 29 years old, to navigate single parenthood while also grieving and managing a demanding career. "I don't really have much family nearby to help," Marcus explained one evening, when Claire gently asked about his support system. "My parents live several states away, and my wife's family, unfortunately, drifted apart from us somewhat after she passed. It's mostly just been me and Ethan, figuring things out together." "That sounds incredibly isolating," Claire said honestly. "It has been, at times," Marcus admitted, "but Ethan's been remarkably strong through all of it. Sometimes I worry he's had to grow up faster than he should have, given everything." As the weeks continued, Claire's daily arrangement with Ethan and Marcus settled into a comfortable, natural rhythm, one that none of them had explicitly planned, but that had nonetheless become an integral part of their daily lives. Ethan began looking forward to their short drives with genuine enthusiasm, often greeting Claire at the bus stop with excited updates about his school day or new drawings he wanted to show her. Claire, in turn, found herself genuinely looking forward to these small daily interactions, appreciating the warmth and simplicity of Ethan's company after long, often difficult shifts at the hospital. Marcus, meanwhile, continued searching for a more permanent after-school solution, interviewing several potential babysitters and after-school programs, though nothing quite fit his schedule or budget as seamlessly as Claire's informal, generous arrangement. By the end of the 4th week, Marcus finally asked Claire the question that had clearly been on his mind for some time. "I have to ask," he said, one evening as she dropped Ethan off. "You've been doing this for almost a month now, completely for free, going out of your way every single day. I don't understand why. You barely knew us when you first offered." Claire considered the question thoughtfully before answering. "Because someone should," she said simply. I saw a little boy standing alone, waiting, day after day, and I couldn't just keep driving past pretending I hadn't noticed. Some things just feel like they matter too much to ignore, even if they're not technically your responsibility. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, clearly moved by the simplicity and sincerity of her answer. "I don't think I've properly thanked you," he said finally. "Not really. Not in a way that captures how much this has actually meant, these past few weeks. You've given Ethan something I haven't been able to give him myself lately: consistency, and someone who genuinely seems to enjoy spending time with him, rather than just tolerating the obligation of caring for him." "He's an easy kid to enjoy spending time with," Claire said warmly. "You've clearly raised him well, even during such a difficult stretch of your lives." "I don't always feel like I'm doing a good job," Marcus admitted quietly. "Grief and single parenthood together, it's a lot to manage, some days. I worry constantly that I'm not giving him enough, that I'm too tired, too distracted, too focused on simply keeping us financially afloat to be the kind of present, attentive father he deserves." "From what I've seen," Claire said gently, "you're doing a remarkable job, under incredibly difficult circumstances. Ethan clearly feels loved and secure. That matters more than you probably give yourself credit for." That conversation marked a subtle but meaningful shift in Claire and Marcus's relationship, the careful, professional distance that had characterized their earlier interactions, gradually giving way to something warmer and more genuine. Marcus began arriving home a little earlier some evenings, when his schedule allowed, specifically to spend a few extra minutes chatting with Claire before she headed home, grateful for the adult companionship after so many isolated months of managing everything alone. "I don't really have many people to talk to, honestly," he admitted one evening. "Most of my friends drifted away after Sarah passed. I think uncomfortable with how to support someone going through something so difficult. I appreciate having someone to actually talk to, beyond just coordinating logistics about Ethan's pickup schedule." "I'm glad to be that person, if it's helpful," Claire said sincerely. "I've enjoyed getting to know both of you. Honestly, more than I expected when I first pulled my car over that day." Ethan, perceptive in the way children often are about the emotional undercurrents between adults, noticed the growing warmth between his father and Claire before either of them fully acknowledged it themselves. "Dad likes talking to you," he told Claire one afternoon, during their drive home, with the blunt honesty children sometimes offer without fully understanding the weight of their observations. "He smiles more when you're around. I like it when he smiles more." Claire felt a flush of warmth at the observation, unsure exactly how to respond to such a direct comment from an 8-year-old. "I like talking to your dad too," she said carefully. "And I really like spending time with you, Ethan. You're a wonderful kid." "I know," Ethan said, matter-of-factly, in the confident way children sometimes surprise adults with. "I think it would be nice if you came around more, even after Dad finds a real after-school helper. Not because we need a ride. Just because I like having you around." By the 6th week, Marcus had finally secured a more permanent after-school arrangement, a reliable, licensed after-school program at Ethan's school that would provide consistent supervision until Marcus could reliably pick him up each day. The news brought a complicated mixture of relief and quiet sadness for both Claire and Ethan, both of them having genuinely come to value their daily time together, even though the arrangement had always been intended as temporary. "I wanted you to know," Marcus told Claire when he shared the news, "that even though Ethan won't need rides from you anymore, I hope that doesn't mean we won't see you. You've become genuinely important to both of us these past 6 weeks. I'd hate for that to simply end because the practical reason for it no longer exists." "I'd like that too," Claire said honestly, relief clear in her voice. "I've really enjoyed getting to know you both. I'd hate for this to just end abruptly." The following weekend, Marcus invited Claire to join himself and Ethan for dinner, not as a formal date exactly, but as a genuine gesture of gratitude and a way of continuing the relationship they had built over the past several weeks, now that the practical arrangement that had first brought them together had come to its natural end. "I want to properly thank you," Marcus said, as they sat together at a small, comfortable restaurant, Ethan happily working through a plate of macaroni and cheese beside them. "Not just for the rides, though those mattered enormously, for the way you showed up for both of us during a really difficult stretch, without expecting anything in return." "You don't need to thank me," Claire said warmly. I meant what I said before. Someone should show up for a kid standing alone at a bus stop. I'm just glad I happened to be the one driving by that day. I'm glad too, Marcus said, his voice carrying a warmth that went beyond simple gratitude. More glad than I probably know how to properly express. Over the following months, Claire remained a steady, welcome presence in Marcus and Ethan's lives, their arrangement evolving naturally, from the practical necessity that had first brought them together into a genuine, deepening friendship. She joined them for occasional weekend outings, a trip to the Natural History Museum that delighted Ethan's dinosaur-loving heart, a simple picnic in the park, casual dinners that gradually became a comfortable, expected part of their weekly routine. Marcus, gradually opening up more about the difficult years since his wife's passing, found in Claire a patient, understanding listener who never rushed him through his grief or made him feel pressured to move forward faster than he was ready for. I think, he told her one evening, after Ethan had gone to bed, that for a long time I convinced myself I didn't have room in my life for anything beyond simply surviving each day, taking care of Ethan, managing work. I didn't think there was space for anything else, especially not for building a new relationship with someone. And now? Claire asked gently. Now I think, Marcus said carefully, that watching you with Ethan, watching how naturally you fit into our lives these past few months, I think I might have been wrong about that. I think there might be room for something more, if you're open to it. Claire, who had, in her own quiet way, developed genuine feelings for Marcus over the months of their growing friendship, felt her heart lift at his careful, honest admission. I've felt something building too, she admitted. I wasn't sure how to bring it up, given everything you and Ethan have been through. I didn't want to push into something you weren't ready for. I think I'm ready, Marcus said, reaching for her hand across the table. I think, honestly, you've helped remind me what it feels like to have real hope for the future again, beyond just getting through each difficult day. They began dating properly after that conversation, moving carefully and deliberately, mindful always of Ethan's well-being and the importance of building something genuinely stable before allowing their relationship to significantly change the dynamic of Ethan's home life. Ethan, upon learning that Claire and his father had begun officially dating, greeted the news with unrestrained enthusiasm, having clearly hoped for exactly this outcome since noticing his father's growing warmth toward Claire months earlier. I knew it, he said triumphantly, when Marcus carefully explained the new development. I told Claire, remember? I said Dad smiles more when she's around. You did tell me that, Claire said, laughing warmly. You were right. Does this mean you'll come around even more now? Ethan asked hopefully. I'd like that very much, Claire said, smiling at both Marcus and Ethan. If that's something you'd both like too. Definitely, Ethan said immediately, before Marcus could even respond, making both adults laugh at his eager enthusiasm. Over the following year, Claire's relationship with Marcus deepened steadily, built on the same patient, genuine foundation that had characterized their friendship from the very beginning. No rushed decisions, no forced timelines, simply a careful, deliberate building of trust and genuine partnership. She became an increasingly consistent presence in Ethan's daily life, not as a replacement for his mother, whose memory Marcus and Claire both worked carefully to honor and preserve, but as another steady, loving adult who genuinely cared for his well-being. I want you to know, Claire told Ethan one evening, sitting together while working on a jigsaw puzzle, that I could never replace your mom. I know she was really special, from everything your dad's told me about her, but I hope there's room for me to love you in my own way too, alongside all the love you already have for her. Ethan considered this seriously, in the thoughtful way he approached most important conversations. I think there's room, he said finally. Dad says love doesn't run out just because you add more people to love. I think that's true. Nearly 2 years after that first afternoon, Claire pulled her car over at the bus stop. Marcus proposed to her, choosing, with careful sentimentality, the same small park where they had first taken Ethan for their earliest outing together as a growing family. I've thought a lot about how to say this properly, Marcus said, kneeling beside the same park bench where they'd once shared a simple picnic. You showed up for us at the hardest possible moment, without hesitation or expectation of anything in return. You gave Ethan stability when I couldn't always provide it myself, and you gave me hope for a future I genuinely stopped believing was possible. I love you, Claire. I want to build the rest of our lives together, properly, as a family. Claire, tears streaming down her face, said yes without a moment's hesitation, Ethan cheering enthusiastically from a few feet away, having been let in on the surprise proposal in advance. Claire and Marcus married the following spring, in a small, warm ceremony that included Ethan in a place of central importance, not simply as a guest, but as an active, cherished participant in the celebration of their new, official family. During the ceremony, Marcus included a special moment specifically for Ethan, presenting him with a small, meaningful gift in front of the assembled guests. "Ethan," Marcus said, "before we finish this ceremony, I want to do something important. Claire isn't just marrying me today. She's choosing to become your family too, officially and completely. I want to ask you something, in front of everyone who loves you. Would you be willing to accept Claire as your family, alongside all the love you carry for your mom?" Ethan, now 10 and deeply moved by the formal significance of the moment, nodded solemnly. "I already have," he said simply. "A long time ago, actually. I just didn't know it was official yet." The guests, many of them moved to tears by the tender exchange, applauded warmly as Claire pulled Ethan into a gentle hug, the three of them standing together as a newly, officially unified family. 2 years into their marriage, Claire and Marcus welcomed a daughter, whom they named Sarah, in loving honor of Marcus's late wife and Ethan's mother, wanting to ensure her memory remained a vibrant, celebrated part of their family's ongoing story. Ethan, now 12, embraced his role as an older brother with genuine devotion, often reminding his parents, with a maturity beyond his years, of small details about caring for a newborn that he'd absorbed from watching Claire's careful, patient nature over the years. "I want to help however I can," he told Claire earnestly, the week after baby Sarah's birth. "I remember how much it helped me, having someone show up consistently. I want to be that person for her too." "You already are," Claire said warmly, watching him gently hold his baby sister for the first time. "You've been that person for her since before she was even born, just by being excited to welcome her." Years later, when people who knew fragments of the family's remarkable story asked Claire how such a simple, spontaneous act of kindness, pulling her car over for a lonely child at a bus stop, had eventually grown into an entire, beautiful family life she now cherished so deeply, she always answered with the same simple, heartfelt honesty. "I think the real lesson," she would say, "is that you never really know which small act of kindness might end up changing your entire life. I wasn't looking for a family that day. I was just a tired nurse driving home from a long shift who happened to notice a little boy standing alone, day after day, and decided I couldn't simply keep driving past." "Do you think about that first day often?" people would sometimes ask. "All the time," Claire would say, smiling warmly. "Every single time I see Ethan with his little sister, or watch Marcus come home to a house full of genuine warmth and love, I think about how close I came to simply driving past that day, telling myself it wasn't really my responsibility. I'm endlessly grateful I didn't." She would look, then, toward wherever her family happened to be gathered in that particular moment. Ethan, now a thoughtful, kind teenager, studying hard toward his childhood dream of becoming a paleontologist. Young Sarah, growing more curious and delightful with each passing year. Marcus, still carrying the same warm, grateful love he'd shown from nearly the very beginning of their relationship, and feel, every single time, the same quiet, overwhelming gratitude for the small, simple decision that had ultimately changed the entire course of her life. "Someone should always show up when they notice a person quietly struggling," she would say, echoing the simple words she'd once offered Marcus so many years earlier when he first asked why she'd been so generous with her time. That's really all this story has ever been about, just showing up, consistently, for someone who needed it, without waiting to be asked. By the time Ethan turned 13, he had grown into a thoughtful, gangly teenager, still carrying the same quiet, observant nature that had first drawn Claire's attention at that lonely bus stop 5 years earlier. He remained devoted to his dream of becoming a paleontologist, filling his bedroom shelves with rock samples, dinosaur models, and library books about fossil excavation that he read cover to cover, often staying up later than he should on school nights, absorbed in stories about famous digs and ancient discoveries. Claire, now fully settled into her role as his stepmother, made a point of nurturing this passion whenever she could, researching local fossil hunting sites, arranging a special birthday trip to a dinosaur museum 3 hours away, and, most meaningfully, connecting him with a family friend who worked as a geology professor at the nearby university, willing to answer Ethan's endless, detailed questions about rock formations and ancient life. "You've given him something really important," Marcus told Claire one evening, watching Ethan excitedly show his baby sister, now 3 years old, a particularly interesting rock he'd found during a recent hike. Not just support for his interests, a genuine belief that his dreams are worth taking seriously. "He deserves that," Claire said simply. "Every kid does." Despite his passion and intelligence, Ethan's early teenage years brought their own share of difficulty, particularly during his 8th-grade year, when a group of classmates began teasing him relentlessly for his intense interest in fossils and rocks, labeling him the rock nerd, in the particularly cruel way middle schoolers sometimes single out anyone who seems different. Ethan, normally open and communicative with his parents, grew increasingly withdrawn during this period, his grades slipping slightly, his enthusiasm for his usual hobbies noticeably dimmed. It was Claire who first noticed the change clearly enough to address it directly, sitting down with Ethan one evening after finding him quietly crying in his room, having just deleted several photos of his rock collection from his phone. "Talk to me," she said gently, sitting beside him on his bed. "Something's been bothering you for weeks now. I want to understand what's going on." Slowly, reluctantly, Ethan shared the details of the teasing he'd been enduring at school, the mocking comments, the exclusion from certain friend groups, the growing sense that his genuine passions made him a target rather than something to be proud of. "I don't want to be the weird kid anymore," he admitted, his voice small and vulnerable. "Maybe I should just stop caring about all this stuff so much." Claire felt her heart ache at his words, recognizing immediately the danger of allowing him to abandon something so genuinely meaningful, simply to avoid the discomfort of standing out. "I need you to hear something important," she said carefully. "The things that make you different aren't things to hide or be ashamed of. They're the things that will eventually lead you to a life you genuinely love, filled with people who actually appreciate you for exactly who you are. I promise you, the kids teasing you right now for loving rocks and dinosaurs, most of them won't even remember doing this in 5 years. But you'll remember, for the rest of your life, whether you stayed true to what genuinely excited you, or whether you let cruelty talk you out of it." "How do you know that?" Ethan asked, still uncertain. "Because I've watched you my whole time knowing you," Claire said gently. "That same intensity and passion you bring to studying fossils, that's exactly the quality that's going to make you a truly excellent paleontologist someday, if you stick with it. I don't want you to lose that, just because a few kids at school haven't learned yet how to appreciate someone who's genuinely passionate about something." Ethan considered her words carefully, some of the tension easing slightly from his shoulders. "I don't want to give it up," he admitted. "I just don't know how to keep being myself when people are so mean about it." "We'll figure that out together," Claire promised. "You're not alone in this, Ethan. Not ever." Over the following weeks, Claire and Marcus worked together, carefully and patiently, to help Ethan navigate the difficult social situation at school, arranging a meeting with his school counselor to address the teasing directly, encouraging him to reconnect with a smaller group of genuine friends who shared or at least respected his interests, and consistently reinforcing, at home, how proud they were of his unique passions. Slowly, gradually, Ethan's confidence began to return. He rejoined the school's small but dedicated science club, where he found several other students who shared genuine enthusiasm for paleontology and geology, forming friendships that would prove far more meaningful and lasting than the approval of the classmates who had once mocked him. By the end of that difficult school year, Ethan had not only recovered his passion for his interests, but had grown noticeably more resilient, having learned through real experience the value of staying true to himself, even when it felt difficult. "I'm proud of you," Marcus told him at the end of the school year, watching him confidently present a project on fossil formation to the entire 8th grade class, no longer hiding his genuine excitement about the subject. "You handled something really hard this year, and you came out the other side even stronger for it." "I had a lot of help," Ethan said, glancing meaningfully at Claire. "I don't think I could have gotten through it without both of you." While Ethan navigated the challenges of early adolescence, his younger sister Sarah grew steadily from an inquisitive toddler into a bright, energetic young girl, her personality developing its own distinct character within the loving, stable family that had grown around her from birth. Sarah, unlike her more reserved older brother, was naturally outgoing and social, quickly making friends wherever she went, and approaching new experiences with an enthusiasm that often left her parents both delighted and mildly exhausted. "She's certainly not shy," Claire observed fondly, watching 4-year-old Sarah confidently introduce herself to every single family at a neighborhood barbecue, asking each of them detailed, curious questions about their lives. "She gets that boldness from you," Marcus said, laughing warmly. "I remember exactly how confidently you pulled your car over that first day at the bus stop, deciding, on the spot, to help a family you'd never even met." "I suppose that's true," Claire said, smiling. "I like to think she's inheriting the best parts of both of us." Sarah and Ethan, despite their significant age difference and very different personalities, remained genuinely close throughout these years, Ethan patiently indulging his little sister's endless questions and requests to play, Sarah, in turn, developing her own budding fascination with the natural world, inspired largely by watching her older brother's genuine enthusiasm for fossils and rocks. When Ethan was 15 and Sarah was 5, the family faced an unexpected and frightening challenge. Marcus, during a routine physical exam, was found to have a serious heart arrhythmia, requiring immediate medical attention and, eventually, a surgical procedure to correct it. The news brought a wave of fear and uncertainty to the entire family, memories of Marcus's late wife's sudden heart-related death inevitably resurfacing as an unwelcome, painful undercurrent to the medical crisis now unfolding. "I keep thinking about Sarah," Marcus admitted to Claire quietly, the night before his scheduled surgery, referring to his late wife, Ethan's mother, whose memory the family had always carefully honored, including through their daughter's name. "The way it happened so suddenly, without warning, I don't want Ethan and our Sarah to go through anything like that again." "You're not going to go through what she went through," Claire said firmly, though her own voice carried the visible strain of genuine worry. "The doctors caught this early. You're getting exactly the kind of proactive care she never had the chance to receive. I believe completely that you're going to come through this surgery just fine." Marcus's surgery, performed the following morning, was successful, correcting the arrhythmia completely and allowing him a full, uneventful recovery over the following weeks. But the frightening experience left a lasting impact on the entire family, deepening their appreciation for the fragility and preciousness of the life they had built together. During his father's surgery and recovery, Ethan, now old enough to fully understand the seriousness of what was happening, struggled visibly with anxiety and fear, memories of his mother's sudden death, though he had been too young at the time to fully process them, resurfacing in confusing, overwhelming ways. Claire, recognizing his distress, made a point of staying close to him throughout the difficult days of his father's surgery and recovery, providing steady, reassuring presence during the long hours in the hospital waiting room. "I'm scared I'm going to lose him too," Ethan admitted quietly, sitting beside Claire in the hospital waiting room while doctors worked on his father. "I don't really remember what happened with my mom. Not clearly, but I remember the feeling of everyone being so scared and sad. I don't want to feel that again." "I understand that fear," Claire said gently, wrapping an arm around him. "It makes complete sense, given everything you've already been through in your life, but I want you to know, whatever happens, you will never face anything like that alone again. You have me, and Sarah, and a whole family who loves you, no matter what comes." The surgery's successful outcome brought immense relief to the entire family, but the experience prompted important, honest conversations between Ethan and his parents about grief, fear, and resilience. Conversations that ultimately strengthened the family's bond even further, having navigated real crisis together with honesty and mutual support. As Ethan progressed through high school, his academic focus increasingly centered on the sciences, particularly geology and biology, building steadily toward his long-held dream of studying paleontology in college. He excelled particularly in his advanced science courses, catching the attention of a dedicated teacher who helped connect him with a summer research opportunity at a nearby university's paleontology department, giving him invaluable early experience working alongside actual researchers in the field he hoped to eventually pursue as a career. "This is incredible," Ethan told his family excitedly, after his first day assisting with the careful cataloging of fossil specimens at the university lab. "I got to actually handle real fossils today, some of them millions of years old. I can't believe this is real." "We're so proud of you," Claire said, watching his eyes light up with the same genuine passion she remembered from years earlier, when he'd first shown her his careful drawings of dinosaurs during their quiet drives home from the bus stop. The summer research experience solidified Ethan's commitment to his chosen field, and by his senior year of high school, he had built an impressive academic record and set of experiences that made him a strong candidate for competitive university paleontology programs. Meanwhile, Sarah, now entering elementary school herself, began developing her own distinct interests, gravitating not toward her brother's fascination with ancient fossils, but toward music, showing remarkable natural talent on the piano that Claire and Marcus quickly recognized and began nurturing with lessons. "I want to be a famous piano player when I grow up," Sarah announced confidently one evening at dinner. At the age of 7, practicing her scales with the same fierce determination her brother brought to studying rock formations. Or maybe a paleontologist too, like Ethan. "I haven't decided yet." "You can be anything you want to be," Marcus said warmly, exchanging an amused, proud glance with Claire across the table. "We'll support whatever path genuinely excites you, just like we've supported Ethan's." Sarah's piano talent developed rapidly over the following years, eventually leading to local recitals and competitions where her natural musicality and growing skill earned consistent praise from teachers and audiences alike. Ethan, despite the significant age gap and their very different interests, remained one of Sarah's most enthusiastic supporters, rarely missing one of her recitals despite his own increasingly demanding academic schedule. "I love that you always come to watch me play," Sarah told him after one particularly successful recital, when she was 10 and he was 17. "Even though piano isn't really your thing." "You're my sister," Ethan said simply. "Watching you do something you love is exactly my thing, even if the piano itself isn't." During his senior year of high school, Ethan applied to several competitive university programs, specializing in paleontology and earth sciences, ultimately receiving acceptance to his top choice program at a respected university several states away. The acceptance letter arrived on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, and the family's celebration that evening was joyful and emotional. Everyone gathered around the kitchen table where, so many years earlier, Ethan had first shown Claire his careful drawings during their daily drives home. "I can't believe this is really happening," Ethan said, reading the acceptance letter again for what must have been the 10th time that evening. "I've dreamed about this exact program since I was 8 years old." "We knew you'd get here eventually," Claire said, tears of pride streaming down her face as she embraced him warmly. "Your passion for this has never once wavered, not even during the hardest years. That kind of determination always finds its way to something remarkable." Marcus, equally moved, pulled his son into a tight hug. "Your mother would be so incredibly proud of you," he said quietly. "I know she is, wherever she is now, watching this moment." The months leading up to Ethan's departure for college brought a mixture of excitement and bittersweet emotion for the entire family, everyone acutely aware that this milestone marked the true beginning of Ethan stepping fully into his own independent life. Claire, in particular, found herself reflecting often during this period on the remarkable journey that had brought her to this moment. From a chance encounter at a lonely bus stop, through years of careful relationship building, to now watching the boy she'd once driven home each afternoon, prepare to leave for a university across the country, secure and confident in pursuing his lifelong dream. "I keep thinking about that first month," she told Marcus one evening, as they helped Ethan sort through boxes of belongings to pack for his upcoming move. How simple it seemed at the time, just giving a kid rides home from the bus stop. I never imagined it would lead to this, to watching him grow into someone so remarkable, ready to chase his dreams with this much confidence. "None of us could have imagined it," Marcus agreed, watching Ethan carefully wrap a favorite fossil specimen for the journey ahead. "But I'm endlessly grateful it did." The family traveled together to help Ethan move into his university dormitory, the day filled with the familiar chaos of unpacking boxes, arranging furniture, and navigating the particular logistics of settling a young adult into independent life for the first time. Sarah, now 11, clung tightly to her brother during their final goodbye, tears streaming down her face, despite her earlier attempts to appear grown up and unaffected by his departure. "I'm going to miss you so much," she said, hugging him fiercely. "Who's going to come to all my recitals now?" "I'll be back for as many as I can manage," Ethan promised, hugging her back just as tightly. "And I'll video call for the ones I can't make it to in person. I promise, distance doesn't change how proud I am of you, or how much I love watching you play." As the family finally drove away, leaving Ethan behind to begin this significant new chapter of his life, Claire found herself thinking back, as she often did during meaningful moments, to that very first afternoon so many years earlier, when a simple decision to pull her car over had set in motion an entire, beautiful family life she could never have fully anticipated. Ethan thrived during his university years, immersing himself fully in his paleontology studies, participating in several significant field research expeditions during summer breaks, and building a strong academic record that positioned him well for graduate studies or professional opportunities following graduation. He remained close with his family throughout these years, calling regularly, returning home for holidays and important family events, and maintaining the same warm, genuine relationships that had been carefully built over so many years. During his junior year, Ethan met a fellow paleontology student named Priya, whose own passion for the field matched his intensity and dedication. Their friendship gradually deepened into a genuine romantic relationship, one that Ethan spoke about with obvious happiness during his calls home. "She's brilliant," he told Claire during one such call. "She actually knows more about certain fossil classification systems than some of our professors. I think you'd really like her." "I can't wait to meet her," Claire said warmly, genuinely delighted at the happiness clear in her stepson's voice. The following Thanksgiving, Ethan brought Priya home to meet his family for the first time, both of them clearly a little nervous about the significant introduction. Priya, warm and genuinely curious about the family's unique history, quickly won over both Claire and Marcus with her thoughtful questions and evident kindness, while Sarah, now 13, delighted in having another person in the family who shared at least some appreciation for Ethan's scientific passions. "Ethan's told me so much about all of you," Priya said, during a quiet moment with Claire while helping prepare the Thanksgiving meal together. "Especially about how you first came into his life. I think it's an incredibly beautiful story, honestly." "It didn't feel particularly remarkable at the time," Claire said, smiling as she recalled those early days. "Just a simple decision to help a lonely kid at a bus stop. I never imagined it would lead to everything that came after." "I think that's exactly what makes it remarkable," Priya said thoughtfully. "The most meaningful things in life often start from such simple, unplanned moments." Ethan graduated from his university paleontology program with highest honors, immediately accepting a position with a respected research institution that would allow him to continue pursuing significant field research while also working toward an advanced graduate degree. The graduation ceremony brought the entire extended family together once more. Claire, Marcus, Sarah, now a confident, talented 15-year-old pianist, and Priya, whose relationship with Ethan had continued to deepen steadily throughout his final year of undergraduate study. "I keep thinking about that lonely bus stop," Claire told Marcus quietly, watching Ethan cross the graduation stage with visible pride and accomplishment. I never could have imagined, that first day I pulled my car over, that it would eventually lead to this moment. Neither could I, Marcus agreed, his voice thick with emotion. But I'm endlessly grateful for every single step of the journey that brought us here. 2 years into his graduate studies and professional research career, Ethan was part of a research team that made a genuinely significant paleontological discovery, a previously unknown species of dinosaur, unearthed during a careful excavation in a remote research site that would ultimately be named, in part, after Ethan's own contributions to the identification and classification process. The discovery brought Ethan a measure of professional recognition, remarkable for someone still relatively early in his career, with his name appearing as a co-author on the significant research paper eventually published in a respected scientific journal. I still can't quite believe this is real, Ethan told his family during an emotional phone call sharing the exciting news. I remember being 8 years old, drawing pictures of dinosaurs in the car with Claire, dreaming about exactly this kind of moment. It feels surreal that it's actually happening. We always knew you'd get here, Claire said, tears of pride streaming down her face as she listened to the excitement in his voice. Your passion for this has never once wavered, not from that very first day I noticed you at the bus stop, showing me your careful little drawings. Not long after his significant professional achievement, Ethan proposed to Priya, who had remained his steady, supportive partner throughout the demanding years of graduate school and early career research. The couple married the following year in a warm, joyful ceremony that brought together family and friends from across the various chapters of both their lives. Sarah, now 17 and preparing for her own upcoming college applications, served as a bridesmaid, delivering a heartfelt toast during the reception that spoke movingly of her brother's journey. My brother taught me, through his whole life, what it means to stay true to your passions, even when it's difficult, Sarah said, raising her glass toward Ethan and Priya. He showed me that the things that make you different are often exactly the things that lead you to the life you're meant to have. I'm endlessly proud to be his sister, and I'm so happy to welcome Priya properly into our family today. Claire, watching the ceremony with Marcus beside her, felt an overwhelming wave of gratitude and pride, reflecting once more on the remarkable, unplanned journey that had brought their family to this joyful moment. As Ethan built his career and new marriage, Sarah continued developing her own considerable musical talent, eventually earning acceptance into a prestigious music conservatory program, following in her brother's footsteps of pursuing a passionate, carefully chosen path rather than a more conventional or expected career route. I used to worry, a little, about whether pursuing music seriously was practical, Sarah admitted to Claire during a quiet conversation shortly before her own departure for college. But watching Ethan build his whole career around something he loved this deeply, even when it seemed unconventional at first, I think that gave me the confidence to trust my own passion too. I'm so proud of both of you, Claire said warmly. Not just for your talents, but for having the courage to genuinely pursue what excites you, rather than simply choosing the safest or most expected path. Sarah's departure for the conservatory marked another significant milestone for the family, the household growing quieter as both children moved into their own independent adult lives, though the close, warm bonds carefully built over so many years remained as strong as ever. With both Ethan and Sarah now living independently, Claire and Marcus found themselves, for the first time in nearly 2 decades, navigating life as a household of just the two of them, a transition that brought its own mixture of emotions. It's strange, Claire admitted to Marcus one quiet evening, the house noticeably empty of the familiar chaos and energy their children had always brought to it. I've spent so many years focused on building this family, and now, watching both of them build their own separate lives, I find myself both incredibly proud and a little unmoored. I understand that completely, Marcus said, reaching for her hand. But I think this next chapter has its own kind of beauty too. We built something remarkable together, and now we get to watch it continue growing, in new directions we couldn't have fully predicted. They used this new chapter of their lives to deepen their own relationship further, traveling together more frequently, rediscovering shared interests that had sometimes taken a backseat during the busy years of active parenting, and remaining, as always, deeply connected to their now adult children through regular calls, visits, and the enduring warmth of the family bonds they had so carefully built. 2 years after Ethan's wedding, he and Priya welcomed their first child, a son they named Marcus, after his grandfather, in loving honor of the steady, devoted father who had raised Ethan through such difficult early years. Claire and Marcus traveled immediately to meet their new grandson, the joy of this significant new arrival bringing fresh, overwhelming happiness to the entire extended family. "I can't believe I'm a grandfather," Marcus said, holding his tiny grandson for the first time, tears of joy streaming down his face. "It feels like just yesterday Ethan was that same size, and now here we are, an entirely new generation beginning." Claire, watching Marcus hold their grandson with such evident tenderness, felt her own heart swell with profound gratitude for the remarkable, unplanned journey that had brought their family to this beautiful moment. "I keep thinking about that lonely bus stop," she said softly, watching Ethan and Priya beam with pride over their newborn son. "If I hadn't pulled my car over that day, none of this would exist. This whole beautiful family, this new little life just beginning, it all traces back to one small decision, all those years ago." During this visit, as the extended family gathered to celebrate the new baby, Ethan found a quiet moment to speak privately with Claire, wanting to share something he'd been reflecting on since becoming a father himself. "Becoming a parent has made me think a lot about my own childhood," he told her. "About how different things might have turned out if you hadn't stopped that day at the bus stop. I don't think I fully understood, when I was young, just how significant that choice was. Now, holding my own son, I think I finally understand completely." "What do you understand?" Claire asked gently. "That showing up for someone, consistently and without expecting anything in return, is one of the most powerful things a person can do," Ethan said. "You didn't have to stop that day. You didn't have to keep showing up, day after day, for a family you barely knew. But you did, and it changed the entire course of my life, in ways I'm only now, as a father myself, beginning to fully appreciate." Claire, deeply moved by his words, pulled him into a warm embrace. "I'm just grateful I was paying attention that day," she said softly, "and even more grateful for everything that grew out of that simple choice." The following year, Sarah graduated from her conservatory program with distinction, having secured a position with a respected regional orchestra immediately following graduation, a remarkable achievement that reflected years of dedicated practice and genuine passion for her craft. Her graduation recital, held in the conservatory's Grand Performance Hall, brought the entire family together once more to celebrate this significant milestone, Ethan and Priya traveling with their young son to be present for the important occasion. Sarah's performance that evening was masterful, her natural talent and years of disciplined practice evident in every carefully performed piece, culminating in a final composition she had written herself, dedicated, as she explained to the audience beforehand, to her family. "This piece is called Someone Should," she announced, before beginning to play. "It's named for the phrase my mother once used to explain why she chose to help a lonely little boy at a bus stop many years before I was even born. I've grown up hearing that story my whole life, and I've come to understand it as the truest lesson our family has ever taught me, that showing up for the people who need you, without hesitation or expectation, is one of the most important things a person can do." As Sarah's beautiful composition filled the concert hall, Claire, sitting beside Marcus with tears streaming down her face, felt the full, overwhelming weight of gratitude for the remarkable family life that had grown, so unexpectedly, from one simple decision made so many years earlier. In the years that followed, the story of that first, simple act of kindness, pulling a car over for a lonely child waiting alone at a bus stop, became something of a treasured family legend, told and retold at holidays, at family gatherings, and eventually to a whole new generation of grandchildren who grew up hearing the story of how their family had truly begun. Ethan and Priya went on to have a second child, a daughter they named Claire, in loving honor of the woman who had first shown up for their family so many years earlier, ensuring her legacy of kindness and steady devotion would carry forward, quite literally, into the family's next generation. Sarah, building her successful career as a professional musician, eventually married a fellow orchestra member, and the two of them, in time, welcomed children of their own as well. Each new addition to the family, greeted with the same warmth and joy that had characterized the family's growth from its very earliest, unexpected beginning. Many years later, as Claire and Marcus settled comfortably into their later years, surrounded by an ever-growing family that included children, grandchildren, and the enduring, deeply rooted bonds built so carefully over decades, they often found themselves reflecting together on the remarkable, winding journey that had brought them to this rich, fulfilling chapter of their lives. "Do you ever think about how different everything would have been?" Marcus asked Claire, one quiet evening, the two of them sitting together on their porch, watching their grandchildren play together in the yard, "if you had simply kept driving past that bus stop that day?" "All the time," Claire admitted, smiling warmly as she watched young Marcus, Ethan, and Priya's son, patiently teaching his younger cousin about the rock collection he'd inherited, quite fittingly, from his paleontologist father. "I think about it especially on days like today, watching this entire family gathered together, knowing it all traces back to one small, simple choice." "I'm endlessly grateful you made that choice," Marcus said, reaching for her hand, the same warm gratitude he'd carried since that very first evening so many years ago, still evident in his voice. "So am I," Claire said softly, watching their family continue playing joyfully in the golden evening light. "I think that's really the truest lesson of our entire family's story. You never know which small, simple act of kindness might end up changing not just one life, but generations to come. Someone should always show up for the people who need it. That's really all this has ever been about, from that very first day."